I am delighted to be joined by Sarah Burgess, who we've worked with many times at different travel. We've been to Vietnam and Borneo, Sahara, so we thought we might do a bit of a slightly chillier one this year. So we launched our Iceland trek for March 25. I'm going to hand over to Sarah, who will talk you through all the amazing things that is part of this challenge.
Okay, thank you. Hello. So hopefully you can see my screen, and I'm here to talk about the Iceland trek, which will be taking place from the 12th to the 17th of March 2025. Just a little summary here. It's really a chance to discover the famous land of fire and ice. We spend 3 days trekking through really different varied landscapes. We get to explore volcanoes, lava fields, mud pools, hot springs, and actually walk along the divide between the two continental plates. And fingers crossed, a real added bonus, we might get to see the Northern Lights. No guarantees. Just first of all, a little health and safety assurance thing, which applies to any of our trips. We're only ever going to take you to somewhere that is safe. We constantly follow the advice of the British Foreign, Commonwealth and Development Office, and if they ever advise against essential travel to a destination, then we won't go there. That could be due to political reasons, a health outbreak, like obviously back in the COVID years, could be a natural disaster. Obviously in Iceland, we're very aware of volcanic activity and things, but basically if anything happens to prevent us going safely, the trip would be either postponed or cancelled at no cost to you. So it's just to reassure you from that point of view. Right, on to the more interesting bit. So this is a bespoke trip for Willen Hospice, which means you'll all be taking part for the same common goal. 3 days of trekking through the different landscapes of Iceland. One of the highlights will be getting up to the peaks and the Mount Hengel Heritage Site. I'm going to go through the full itinerary in a moment. Everything's covered, so your flights, meals, accommodation, all the local guides, that's all covered as part of the package. So first of all, where are we going? This is a little map that shows you where Iceland is. It's a small Nordic island sitting in the North Atlantic and Arctic Ocean, and Reykjavik is the capital. It's around about a 3.5-hour flight from London to Reykjavik, so not too far to go. Here's just a little Google map image to show you some of the landscapes. So the plan is to hike to this volcano. It is the one that is currently in the stages of possibly erupting, so I'll talk about that in a moment, but there are so many other options in Iceland. If we don't go there, we'll go to another volcano. We're also going to go to Mount Hengel, which is over here. We go up a couple of good peaks there. That's probably the toughest day of trekking. Beautiful views from the top if we get nice weather. And just let this carry on. And then Thingvellir National Park is on our 3rd day of trekking. You can actually see the fault line on this Google Earth image. It's where the American and European plates are, where the divide is between the continents, which is a really interesting place to walk as well. Okay, finished. Oh, no, don't want to play it again. On to the next one. Here we go. So back to the itinerary. Wednesday, the 12th of March is when we will depart the UK on that flight to Reykjavik. Obviously, we haven't got flight schedules quite that far in advance yet, so we can't guarantee exactly what that route will be, but we will be booking those flights as soon as those flights are announced in spring 2024. That first day, we don't know what the flight times will be, so we don't have any plans. We will just get you to the hotel, which is in the south of Iceland, which is where we will be based for the day's trekking. There might be a little bit of free time to do something, or it might just be a case of flying in and going straight to the hotel. So the following day is when our trek begins, and the plan is to drive. It's about an hour's drive from our base, where we go up to one of the youngest volcanoes, which is Gillingadalur, before walking across to see the actual volcano, which has been erupting in recent years. Now, we planned this because obviously it's really exciting to see those recent activity that's been taking place. You'll be able to see the volcanic eruption, sort of the lava, the aftermath of that. And the plan is to do that and then to come back via a geothermal area before we get into the hotel. So there'll be a chance to see the bubbling mud pools, hot springs that are in that part of the world. Obviously, if there is any danger involved, we will not be taking you to that area. The Icelandics are very, very on top of all of this seismic activity. They monitor it constantly, which is why they're knowing now that exactly where the volcano will erupt and roughly when it will erupt. And obviously those areas are currently out of bounds. So we will only be taking you there if it's safe to do so. If not, there are plenty of other options that we will be including instead. But yeah, chance to see those sort of activities, whether it's the lava, the fumaroles, the hot springs, is kind of a real highlight of a trip to Iceland, just to get to see all of that activity. It's so different to anything you're ever going to see anywhere else, really. There's some photos of currently the most recent eruption, which was a couple of years ago. So our accommodation is in a hotel for this trip because we're going in winter, in March. It's going to be pretty chilly overnight. So we're based in a comfortable hotel. You'll be in twin share rooms. There may be some single rooms available for a supplement. If you're interested, just let us know. But they'll be comfortable with ensuite facilities, and most of your meals like breakfast and dinners will be taken at the hotel. Back to the itinerary. So the second day, Friday, is when we head to Mount Hengil area. So it's, again, a short drive up to this part of the world, and we have got a couple of peaks that we're going to climb today. First of all, it's Skegi Peak, which is 805 metres. If the weather's clear, there will be amazing views from there across to the islands and what have you. Can't guarantee the views, I'm afraid, but it's a lovely hike, whatever the weather. And then we also go up Mount Skegi, which is the highest peak in that area. So 2 peaks, beautiful views, and a bit of a challenging day today, probably about 8 hours of trekking, depending on the weather and the climate and the conditions. And then again, we go back to the hotel. The hotel's a lovely base with a jacuzzi as well, so have a dip in the hot tub and look out for the northern lights that evening. So a little bit about the meals. Icelandic cuisine is, their 2 favourite ingredients are fish, so kind of mainly salmon or trout, and lamb. A lot more so than chicken. It just seems to be the animal that thrives in that part of the world. There's plenty of ability to cater to vegetarians, vegans, gluten-free. If you do have any particular dietary requirements, please just let us know when you book, and then we can make sure that we are catering to those as well. But the meals will be kind of warm and hearty, and will build you up for a day of trekking for sure. We've already talked about the fact that this hotel has got ensuite facilities, so you don't need to worry about camp toilets or showers or anything like that. The one great thing about Iceland is because of all this geothermic activity, there is unlimited hot water. Hot water and electricity is basically free throughout the whole country, so there's never any shortage of that for hot showers in the evening. If you need to use the toilet during the day of trekking, however, then obviously that's a little bit more back to nature. You'll need to just find a private area off the trail. And like anywhere in the world, you mustn't obviously leave any toilet paper or anything behind. So we do recommend you bring a roll of toilet paper and either some nappy sacks or dog poo bags with you, so that you can put any used tissue into a little bag, pop it in your day pack, and then you dispose of that when you get back to the accommodation in the evening. And our final day of trekking on Saturday is to the Thingvellir National Park, which is an absolutely stunning national park, and it is the fault line that divides the continental plates of America and Europe. A bit of a shorter day today because we're then going back to Reykjavik afterwards, but around about a 10-kilometre, 4-hour kind of trek. It's also of great historical interest because this is actually where the Vikings, when they came and populated Iceland, set up their parliament. So in the summer, all the different tribes would come from all over Iceland and set up their kind of parliament in this area. So you've got some historical ruins as well as the absolute natural wonder of that area. It's a really fascinating place to spend your final day in. Well, not your very final day, but your final day of trekking in Iceland. That night, we head back to Reykjavik, and then we have a celebration meal in town. That's kind of a overnight in Reykjavik that evening. So a little bit about the weather. We are going in March, which is still going to be pretty chilly. We would expect temperatures to be around 4 to 5 during the day, maybe around minus figures, -2 to -5 overnight. However, the fact that we're in a hotel, that doesn't matter too much. It'll be lovely and warm in the hotel. There may well be variations to this. Weather is completely varied. They always joke that in Iceland, if you don't like the weather, just hang around because it will change, and it's very, very true. At this time of the year, It could be dry, there could be winds, there could be rain, there could be snow, there could be all sorts. If at any point the weather prevents us from doing what is the planned itinerary for that day, we will go somewhere else. The guides that we work with in Iceland are so used to all of these constant variations and changes. There's always something up their sleeve, and obviously our priority is to keep you all safe. So yeah, we're only going to ever take you somewhere where it is safe to do so. And then finally, we actually have a free day at the very end of this trip in Reykjavik. So it's a beautiful city. It's a really interesting, vibrant, modern capital city, very, very compact. So it's a lovely size to walk and wander around. We are going to look at offering an optional trip to the Blue Lagoon, because it's obviously something a lot of people do want to do when they're in Iceland. That would be at an extra cost. We haven't included lunch that day because, again, you're going to be out and about, probably exploring the town, doing different excursions, but we'll have breakfast and then we'll have dinner that evening. There's an awful lot that you can choose to do in Reykjavik. You can go whale watching, you can go and do, there's a lot of other thermal pools in and around the Reykjavik area. There's the history in the city itself. There's some gorgeous museums. So yeah, there's a lot of opportunity for you to enjoy that final day. And then the final day is going to be going back home to the airport. Again, obviously, we don't know the timings yet. There may be a little bit of free time, or it may be a question of get up, breakfast, and go to the airport. So just to run through a few questions. Communication. So in the hotels, there will be Wi-Fi. Communication, mobile signal is pretty good in Reykjavik and in the towns, but don't expect to have cover everywhere on the trek. Hopefully, you know, it's nice to actually be a little bit away and not worry about it too much. The guides have got communication systems in place, so you're never going to be completely out of contact if there was an emergency. But using your phones will be absolutely no problem at the hotel in the mornings and evenings. Plenty of Wi-Fi available. One thing you do need to arrange yourself is travel insurance. You need to make sure that you have got the appropriate cover for you and for this particular trip, which will include obviously the trekking, emergency helicopter rescue should it ever be needed. Fingers crossed it won't. Campbell Irvine are a company we've worked with for many, many years now, and they guarantee that they will cover all of our trips. So if you did take out a policy with them, you absolutely can be guaranteed that you will be covered. But there's no obligation. There's plenty of other policies. If you do have one already, like an annual policy with your bank or your credit card, do just check to make sure you're covered for this kind of activity. That's all we suggest. You've probably got an idea from the photos. We really do recommend boots for this trek. Trainers are not going to be suitable at all. You could be walking through deep snow like this. It could be wet and muddy. It could be very slippy. Ankle injuries are the most common injury, so boots will give you that much more protection and also warmth. Just a note on this, if it is really snowy like this, you may be provided with additional equipment like snowshoes, which just strap on top of your walking boots. We do recommend walking poles, absolutely, like you can see in this photo here. That is something that is on the kit list for you to bring with you. Age limit. So the minimum age limit is 18. However, we will accept 16 or 17-year-olds if they're accompanied by a parent or a guardian. There's absolutely no upper age limit. There is a medical form that is part of the booking process. And if you do have, it's very, very important that you do declare all medical conditions on here, just so that our local team are prepared to help you should the situation arise. If you do have a particular condition, the process is that the form will be screened and there may be a call put in place for you if we've just got any questions, or it possibly might be a question of having to go to your doctor to double check and confirm that they are happy for you to take part. But either way, there's nothing really that should exclude you from taking part in this trek. You've got plenty of time to train and get fit if that's your concern. And yeah, just please declare everything and then everyone will be aware. So big question, will I see the Northern Lights? Well, this isn't a hunting for the Northern Lights trek as such. However, at this time of the year, it is highly likely that you may see them. Basically, between September and April, Iceland does have magnificent displays. And the fact that we're staying in quite a remote location, when you're staying actually in Reykjavik itself, it's not so likely because, of course, you've got the light pollution of a big city. However, out in the countryside, it is likely that you may see them, but we obviously can't make any promises about that. The trek in itself is just going to be exploring all the sort of highlights and the best that Iceland has to offer. And we sort of say, if you're lucky enough to see the lights, that's a bonus, but fingers crossed. How challenging is it? Well, we've graded this trek moderately challenging. However, it's important to say that that is moderately challenging for someone who is a good level of fitness. If you don't feel you have a good level of fitness already, you've got time to get yourself up to that before taking part. There's a number of different factors which combine to make this trip potentially challenging. So you're carrying your own day pack each day. Obviously, the fact we're in a hotel overnight, you're not carrying anything too much. However, you'll be carrying 3 litres of water, maybe a hot drink, packed lunch, extra layers, waterproofs, first aid kit, camera. All of that ends up weighing a fair bit, often between 6 to 8 kilos. So it is important to train carrying that level of weight. The terrain is hugely varied, as you've probably seen from the photos. The climate is going to be chilly. It could well be wet. It could be windy. It could be snowy. You're trekking distances for 3 consecutive days, and that's often something that people don't necessarily bear in mind. It's all very well to go out and do a long trek in the UK, get back, and then you can recover. You've got to go up and do it again and again. So in terms of training, we really sort of would advise training to the level that you can go and do 2 or 3 consecutive days of these kind of distances. The more training you do, the more familiar your body will just be with the trekking, and you'll be able to recover quicker so that you're fit and ready to go again the next day. We just say, please take responsibility for arriving in Iceland as fit as you can be. So how should I train? The first and the most important thing is to get outside and start walking. If you're not already a regular walker, you can just start slowly with short distances, and then gradually, as you get more confident, you can increase that and increase your mileage and build in more challenging terrain. You want to get to that point that you can comfortably walk for consecutive days on hilly terrain and with a heavy backpack. So hill walking with a backpack is the prime thing you should do. But in terms of general fitness, obviously you can do whatever you enjoy doing, whether that be running, whether it be cycling, going to the gym, if you play football or play tennis or anything like that. Whatever you do to keep fit and to increase that is going to help. Most importantly, really, for the trek is building up your core and your leg muscles. So if you are going to do particular exercises, it's things like squats and lunges and planks that will really help. And of course, you don't need to go to the gym for those. You can do them at home. We do provide some training guidelines. And if you have any questions about that, you can always contact our team and we'll be able to point you in the right direction. So who's right for this challenge? This diagram really just illustrates that it is for absolutely anybody. We get a real mixture of people on these trips, and that's part of the joy of it. You're going to meet people that you might not ever come across in regular everyday life, but yet you're all doing it for the same common goal. You're all in it together. Everybody's so supportive, and you end up making friends for life. All ages, all reasons, whatever your reason is, you're going to be with like-minded people at the end of the day. So I'm going to hand over to Dawn in a minute, but in terms of the costs, I just want to run through that the trip costs include pretty much everything. So return flights from the UK, which includes airport taxes, and so there's not going to be any supplements for that. All your transfers and all the transport in Iceland, comfortable accommodation in twin share rooms, all the meals apart from that lunch on the final day, just because you'll be out and about doing different things that day. We've got a fantastic English-speaking team of local guides that we've been working with in Iceland for a long time now. They're absolutely brilliant. And there'll also be a different travel tour manager. So somebody from the UK will fly out with you. They'll be looking after you throughout, just making sure everything goes smoothly and there to help with any problems that you have. Sorry about the dog barking. The only things that are not included are, as I've already mentioned, lunch on day 5, any personal expenses. You don't need to spend anything, but because we're at a hotel, there will be an opportunity to have a drink with your evening meal. If you obviously wanted to have a soft drink or a beer, that's something you would pay for yourself. Any necessary vaccinations, although there isn't anything for Iceland, I can't imagine that would change. Travel insurance, I've already touched upon. Tipping, this is entirely optional, but based on past groups' experience, Iceland is an expensive country, and most people end up tipping between £50 to £60 a person. That's per person in the team member, which goes to cumulatively tip the team that we're working with. However, that is optional. There's absolutely no need for that, but that's just what most people like to do. And then finally, trek kit and equipment. As I mentioned, anything specialist that is needed, should you need snowshoes or anything like that, will be provided. However, you will need walking boots, your backpack and your clothing, all of which is detailed on the kit list. So Dawn, do you want to talk a little bit about the costs here?
Yeah, so I'm Dawn, I'm the challenges manager at Willen. So I look after people that do all sorts of challenges, and it normally relates to somebody we have looked after at Willen Hospice. And someone wants to help raise money to make sure we continue to offer the amazing care we do 365 days of the year, 24/7. We try and make this as flexible as possible. So we have 3 fundraising options, and I would help you with ideas, which we'll talk about later in the presentation. We've also, different travel are brilliant. So there is a registration fee, which confirms your booking, and that is taken when you do book. But if that's something you need to pay over several months, then they will look at that and help you do that. So don't worry if you find that that's something you haven't got, but you want to sign up to make sure that you don't miss out. £385 registration fee. And we ask you to fundraise money for Willen Hospice for our care and services. So the costs are £2,050. That covers all the things that Sarah said is included, so flights, hotels, transfers. And then we ask people to raise an additional £2,050 on top of the costs, which is the money that Willen Hospice will then use to help support all of our family and our patients and their families. Some people have to raise all of that money, and that's where you can do that. And obviously then towards the trip and when it's due to be paid, Willen Hospice will pay towards the costs because you have used obviously your fundraising option to do that. You can self-fund, so some people are lucky enough to actually be obviously able to pay the £2,050, and then we ask them obviously to fundraise the same amount for us. And then we have a flexi option, so you can do a bit of both, because some people can pay some more towards their costs, but they also need to help with their fundraising. And that's my job really, once you've registered, is to talk and meet with you over a coffee and just go through all the support we give you to help you achieve those goals. Okay, so you get me, you get Willen Hospice, we have resources that we can obviously supply for you. But with different travel, you also get provided with a kit list, because everybody wants to know, what do I need to take with me, a full dossier about the trip, and they do have partnerships where you can have discount vouchers for things like your kit and your travel insurance. As Sarah said, you'll have a first aid trained tour manager and local guides. You also have someone from Willen Hospice to support you. So one of our team will come out and trek with you and be there to support you. And that might be just maybe you're having a bit of a tough day, you're remembering why you're doing this amazing trek, and they will make sure that you and obviously your well-being and everyone in the group are okay and support you as needed. We offer you a good luck. So before you go, we do food from Iceland. So we get our amazing catering team to provide the food, and obviously with dietary requirements if needed. And then obviously the support that you'll get from myself to help you reach the goal. So Willen Hospice, it's an amazing place. People don't often know what we do until they have a loved one or maybe a colleague or a friend that is supported by Willen. We're based at Willen Lake, and we have 15 bedrooms at the inpatient unit, and all of them now face the lake. So we've been very lucky to receive some legacies in the last couple of years, and that's enabled us to enhance all of the rooms at the hospice, and our amazing team of doctors and nurses care for people there. Now, the average stay at the hospice is actually 14 days. It is often at the end of someone's life and they've chosen to come to us for their support and for pain relief. But sometimes people come to the hospice, we control their pain and we help with their symptoms, and they go back home again. And it might be that's where they also want to spend the last days of their life. So it's really important that we carry out everybody's wishes. Some of the photos here are the services that we offer at our amazing team. We have support for children. So we care for adults aged 18 and over with a life-limiting illness. But obviously they will have families, they'll have children, grandchildren. And so we have an amazing team in social care that support all of the family from diagnosis and actually after their loved one is no longer with us, because people will grieve at different times and need support at different times. So we offer this support for life. So whenever anybody needs to come back to us because they're getting very upset and having memories and want reassurance, that's something our teams can do. A lot of people now would like to stay at home and have support. So we've got a fantastic Willen at Home service. So they come and help with people and their families and make sure they're comfortable at home. They can make sure the right beds are supplied and obviously come as needed in that person's journey through any support they need for us. Now, obviously, this costs a lot of money and it is offered free of charge to our amazing community in Milton Keynes and surrounding area. So we actually need to raise £4.5 million every year. So only 15% of our costs are covered by the government. So the total cost is 5.9 million. Now that just sounds so much. You think, what difference can I make? But what we do is just ask people to do lots of different things to help us. And actually, if you can raise £11.34 with your fundraising every minute, that is what is covering all of the services we offer, whether that's at home or in the hospice. So we have people doing lottery, we have amazing shops, we do events, people give regularly. So all of those areas enable us to try and achieve the £4.5 million. And our costs are going up like everybody's, obviously gas, electric, it's really tough for people out there. So what we do to try and help, we've got the, the training to do, you've got this amazing experience to look forward to, but we also help with the fundraising because that is something that people will also worry about. And that's where we can take some of that worry away from you. Okay, so how will you raise £4,100? So this is if you've got to fundraise everything because you're not able to pay towards the costs of this challenge. There's loads of ideas. People still love a bake sale, and whether that's family, friends, work colleagues, casino nights, quiz nights are brilliant, and we can help you with venues that are very happy for you to have a quiz there, and also for you to supply raffle prizes and sell raffle tickets. One of the most popular things at the minute is disco bingo. I've been to 2 or 3. They're great fun. And again, we know venues that have that type of event you can hold there. And that way people get singing along with the songs and there's a raffle and it's just a great experience for them. And in exchange, they will buy tickets, buy raffle tickets and help with your fundraising. If you've got links with schools, there's the non-uniform day or mufti day, as we used to call it. Car boots are brilliant, so it's a good way to also maybe, you've had all your Christmas presents and you need to one in, one out, I think is the rule in our house. So to then maybe do a car boot or eBay sales to help raise money from selling those items you no longer need, but someone else would benefit from. Obviously, we have collection buckets, banners, we've got T-shirts, we've got lots of resources that we can help provide for you. And also, if you are lucky enough, it'd be worth asking your company if they offer match funding. And that way, whatever you raise, they would increase that amount. If you're lucky, they'll double it. But that way, that will also help you. And do you know what? People do worry, but so many people exceed their target. And you've got quite a good time because we're not going till March 25. So the sooner you sign up, the sooner you can get targeted for your fundraising and targeted for your training. And both of those together, we are here to help you. And that's just something I just want to reassure people that you're not on your own. Groups, we do a WhatsApp group on people that are going to Kilimanjaro in January next year. They're training, walking together, they're sharing their fundraising ideas together. So when you go on this amazing challenge, you've already met the people that you would be trekking with. So it is a real team win, and that we encourage, and it works really well because we're a small local charity and we can make it feel like that family and that team, that you're all in this together supporting the hospice. So how do you sign up? So on our website, we have a link which takes you through to the booking form, and that's also on the different travel websites. We make it nice and easy for you. And once you've signed up, you'll pay your registration fee. I'll get in touch and then I'll start to support you and arrange a meet up with you, so we can go through all of this together going forward.
Okay. Do you want to come back?
And obviously
questions.
Sarah is obviously the expert on anything to do with the trek. She's done this trek herself, and said it was absolutely amazing. I just think some of the questions we may get asked, and obviously it's something you can also ask if you still want to make sure you've got the answer before you do sign up. So I do a bit of running. I would see myself as generally fit. How hard is this, Sarah? Is it something that is very inclusive if people do the training?
Absolutely, if people do the training, that's the key thing. You've seen the terrain and the photos, which will give you a bit of an idea. It's not easy. You're going to be walking up quite steep slopes, very challenging terrain underfoot, which you can't necessarily prepare for directly, but the fitter you are, the more hill walking you've done, the better equipped you will be to do it. I think that's the key thing, just get out, get training on hills where possible, and then you'll be in a good position to do this.
And obviously no altitude worries for this one.
No, absolutely. No, you're going up to sort of 800, 900 meters, so no actual altitude to worry about at all, no.
Okay, brilliant. And what sort of kit may I need? I know it's something we provide once someone's registered, but is it layers? Is that the secret?
Yeah. Absolutely, yeah. So, I mean, in terms of main equipment, you've got your walking boots and your day pack. They're the two most important things that are important to get early on so that you can wear them and use them as part of your training. Walking poles, I would say, are very important for this trek as well. But in terms of clothing, it's layers. The weather really is so changeable in Iceland. It would be good to have a good base layer, good thermal base layer of both, trousers and top, and then just regular trekking trousers, fleeces, a good windproof and waterproof jacket will certainly be required, a nice warm hat, warm gloves. So, if you're used to getting outside in the winter, certainly if you go skiing, anything like that, the sort of your ski gloves and clothes you wear for that will be very handy. But you don't need to go and spend a fortune. If you're more the kind of person that more regularly goes to the gym, then the sort of things that you wear there with a few extra layers on top will be absolutely fine. Yeah.
Okay, brilliant. And then you've mentioned the current news.
Yeah.
Obviously with Iceland, volcanoes do erupt, but I guess you're so close to everything that is going on there, and as you've said, you're so flexible, you can just change where you would go on the island if needed.
Yeah. Absolutely. I mean, the team out there are dealing with seismic activity on a daily basis. It's just obviously at the moment, it's particularly in the news because of that particular volcano they are expecting to go off. They just know, I mean, they've got so many things that monitor all of this, and they know in advance what's going to happen. So if it's not, I mean, obviously if we were there at the moment, we'd still be going, we'd still be staying in the same accommodation, but we wouldn't be taking part in that first day's trek. We would move that to another location, and that's what we possibly might expect to happen. Very rarely, if something major happens, like obviously there was that huge ice cloud, volcanic ash cloud going back several years ago now. If anything happened like that, the whole of Iceland was off limits, then of course that's another matter and we wouldn't be going, but it's so unlikely that would be the case. We will probably be going and just amending the itinerary as we need to, depending on the conditions at the time.
Okay, brilliant. So now it's really exciting. This is on anyone's bucket list. It's something they've always wanted to do. What a great way to do this adventure and support your local hospice and make a huge difference to obviously all of our patients and our community. So thank you, Sarah. I love your
Thank you.
energy and your knowledge, because you've been there, you've done it.
It is an amazing place. I mean, the whole of Iceland is just a fantastic country, no, not like any other country. And yeah, personally, I think it's a great time of the year to go to see all of these kind of, you know, facets of it. And fingers crossed, the Northern Lights.
Brilliant. Okay. Thank you, Sarah. Thank
No
you.
worries. Thank you.